Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. Today I am so excited about this video in particular. This video have been in my head for a little while. I've been researching it for a little while as well. So today I'm going to be doing a video on beauty in the 90s. I was on Instagram like I always am, like most of us always are, and I came across this video on the Embracing Black Culture's Instagram page. Side note, if you don't follow them, I love their page. Make sure you guys are following Embracing Black Culture on Instagram. And they posted this video all about beauty in the 90s and early 2000s. And from that video, I was led down a rabbit hole of looking up any and everything 90s related. I mean, I was looking up pictures, videos, and interviews of some of the most iconic beauties from the 90s. I mean, I was literally just stuck with looking up any and everything like black 90s related. I had fell down the rabbit hole and I was stuck. So the 90s and the early 2000s beauty really differs from today because beauty was much more simpler compared to what is considered quote unquote beautiful today. But I'm going to get into that a little later on. So I don't know if y'all care about stuff like this, but to me, the 90s is an iconic time for beauty. It just makes me super excited. So hopefully you all will find this video interesting. And if you're not interested in this kind of thing, hopefully I do a good enough job in the video where you end up being interested anyway and enjoy the video. I mean, the pressure is on for me, but I'm going to try my best so y'all can, really enjoy the video. So as most of y'all should know, I love doing timepiece videos where I chronicle a certain era and or eras. So if you haven't already checked out the series I did chronicling natural hair throughout the decades, I will link those videos down below for you. I spent a lot of time on them. You guys seem to really enjoy them, so they will be linked in the description box below. In those videos, I covered natural hair throughout the decades, and I started with the 60s and I did all the way up until today. So make sure you check those out if you're interested. So of course, when this video idea came to me from watching that video, I jumped on it. The 90s is one of my favorite eras ever. Not only because I was born in the 90s, hello, but also because everything was amazing back then. I mean, everything from the music videos, the fashion, of course, the beauty, even fast food, I feel like was different back then. Like, y'all can't tell me nothing about McDonald's in the 90s. Even though, it ain't good for you today, back then, McDonald's felt like the ultimate high-end bourgeois spot to be. Y'all couldn't tell me nothing. McDonald's don't taste like 90s McDonald's at all, period. Anyway, the 90s was such an influential time for me personally. Although I wasn't old enough to appreciate it in real time, I often go back and reference that time period for everything. And I mean, I reference it for makeup looks, for fashion looks, for the creativity in music videos back then, from Missy Elliott and different people like that. I mean, everything from the 90s to me is just classic, iconic, and timeless. So the 90s is an era that I go back and reference to for literally everything imaginable. Listen, in the 90s, we have so many women who were all unique in their own right. I mean, unique in their beauty and their style and all of that kind of stuff that I could talk about in this video. Because unlike today's beauty standard, back then we had a wide variety of all different kinds of women who were celebrated and appreciated for being unique and being themselves. But I am going to also be chronicling beauty in the 2000s and also the 2010s. So you'll hear more of my opinion on the beauty standard today when I do the 2010s video, because we're going to get into some things. So stay tuned for that. But let's get back into the 90s beauty, which is the topic at hand. So one of the most iconic beauty that comes to my mind super quick when I think about the 90s is none other than Lisa Bonet. Lisa Bonet was part of one of the most iconic shows from the 80s and 90s, which of course would be The Cosby Show. The Cosby Show was so iconic because it showed the lives of a middle-class black family, which was rarely displayed in that way back then. Back then, we had all of the more thuggish movies, where black people kind of played their own stereotype. The Cosby Show was a little bit different in how they portrayed, black people, because not all black people have the same experience or grew up the same way. So when the Cosby Show came on the scene and showed basically two successful black people in love together, and they have this family. It was something different. So Lisa Bonet played Denise Huxtable, the daughter of Claire and Cliff Huxtable. Lisa Bonet would leave the show to star in a spinoff of the show called A Different World, which is also an iconic show. Lisa Bonet for me represented that carefree, laid-back chick. Her beauty is timeless. A lot of people have tried to emulate her style and her overall cadence, but never really prospered because hers was so effortlessly because she didn't try. It just kind of came to her because that's who she was. When I think of Lisa Bonet, I think of someone who's fearless, strong, and beautiful. And I think a lot of things that she kind of did and said back in the day that people kind of frowned upon or looked at different or strange now is like the norm. So I feel like she was ahead of her time as well. When I look at pictures of her or think about her, I always think that it's okay to be your authentic self, and if no one understands it, that's okay as well. Another iconic beauty from the 90s that I think of right away is Brandi. You guys, how iconic is Brandi? She's not just iconic for her music, but also her TV and movie roles, playing the Black Cinderella, having the show Moesha. I mean, the list goes on and on. Brandi is one of the most iconic figures from the 90s. Brandi was so relatable to kids like me growing up in the 90s because she felt like your friend. She had braids like me, she looked like me. I think most of us can touch and agree that Brandi is most known for her braided hairstyles. Even though I heard it was a wig the whole time, if that's true or not, it doesn't matter because the braids were iconic then, they're iconic now, and they'll forever be iconic. So in the 90s, Brandi had her own sitcom that I touched on earlier called Moesha, and the show dealt with a lot of subjects many people could relate to. Moesha is still iconic to this day because it was mostly an all-black cast. It mixed in humor with more heavier subjects, and of course, Brandi was the star of the show. Moesha is where we fell in love with Brandi and her braids because she pretty much donned them in every episode from season to season. Brandi is 90s beauty, period. And when you speak about the 90s, I really couldn't do this video without speaking of Brandi because Brandi dominated the music scene in the 90s, the television screen. I mean, Brandi was everywhere. I still think to this day, Brandi is still iconic and can still be such an inspiration to, the little black girls coming up. She was one of the first black people, if not the first, to have like her own black Barbie doll after her. I mean, she is iconic. So to not mention her in this video would be crazy dumb. Continuing on with major iconic figures from the 90s, you guys know I had to mention Aaliyah. Who didn't want to be Aaliyah growing up though? Raise your hand because I know I wanted to be her so bad. She was the dopest, the coolest, the chillest. Aaliyah was the ultimate cool hip hop tomboy. I remember being so intrigued by her hairstyle so much. I definitely was inspired by her growing up, and I still am right now to this day. Aaliyah released her debut album, Age Ain't Nothing But a Number, in 1994, and she immediately came on the scene with her super cool style. Baggy clothes and all, and she was still so breathtakingly beautiful. I think that that's one of my things that I really admire about her. She really didn't try to be something she wasn't. Like, she was authentic to herself and her style, and she was still so gorgeous while doing that. As the years went on, Aaliyah definitely kept her tomboy essence, but she also mixed in some sultriness as well. And from that, we got one of Aaliyah's most well-known looks, which was the hair over the eye look. You guys, I still look at these pictures and I be like, how was she like seeing stuff? Because that hairstyle is so iconic, you guys. The look is iconic. She's timeless. I cannot mention the 90s without mentioning how beautiful and talented Aaliyah was. May God rest her soul. May the angels wrap their arms around her family. She'll always be remembered because she is an iconic beauty. I cannot touch or talk about this era without talking about the beautiful and iconic Naomi Campbell. Naomi got her start at a young age when she was featured in Bob Marley's Is This Love video. But she got her start in the modeling world where she is most known from at age 15 and has since gone on to become a full legend. Naomi ruled the runway in the 90s. She's beautiful. All of her looks are iconic. Many people have tried to emulate her style in today's times, And Naomi has to let the girls know where they get the inspo from. Y'all remember that clapback? Iconic. I know so many darker skinned women were inspired by seeing Naomi rip that runway. I know that they were inspired by seeing her cover so many magazines and I mean so much more. I was researching her for this video. She really has had a full career, like iconic career, iconic covers, looked, fashion shows. She is like just everything. She literally served looks that are now timeless. Like you think about her runway walk and everything that people talk about in their songs, so beautiful. And the list could go on and on forever. There are so many women who were iconic in the 90s, but we will be here forever if I listed everyone who I feel like were iconic. But as you can see, we have so many beautiful women to look up to in the 90s. The whole purpose of this video is to really show how effortless beauty was back then. Most of the women I mentioned had a tomboy-esque style, and they still were considered some of the most beautiful women in the world. In today's society, the standard of beauty has totally changed, and that's something we'll get more into when I talk about beauty in the 2010s era. When I saw that video on Embracing Black Culture's Instagram, it made me really nostalgic about the 90s because women didn't have to try hard to be considered beautiful. Women didn't have to have a certain body type to be considered beautiful. Women didn't have to get their faces beat to be considered beautiful. And by beat, I mean like, hella makeup. And don't get me wrong, women still don't have to do any of those things to be considered beautiful, but I just want to stress how much the standard of beauty has changed today. Women are now extremely altering their bodies to look a certain way because of today's standard of beauty. Not saying that there's anything wrong with altering your body in any way, but I'm just trying to show you how much things have changed. I know plastic surgery and all of those things have always been around, but I feel like today it's just taking a whole new life. But anyways, the 90s is an era that will always have a place in my little heart. Hopefully this video brought some nostalgic moments into your life. And I'll be back with part 2 of this video where we're going to discuss beauty in the 2000s, which is also one of my favorite eras. So don't forget to subscribe, like, and share this video if you enjoyed it. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.